Hello there. Hi, welcome back to the Pitch Grid. Thank you so much for tuning back into us. We greatly appreciate it. This episode is going to be a preview episode with the EFL Championship being on international break. We won't be doing much in terms of the EFL stuff, but we will be previewing all of the NFL's Week 11 action. Hard to believe we only have 7 weeks left of regular season football. In the NFL left. Doesn't feel right, but man, we're here. We roll, we ball. So let's go pitch side real quick. I did want to do a EFL fantasy type thing. If you play EFL fantasy, it's it's not much. It's gonna be much this week because all the championship and the big teams are gonna be out in League One, League Two, obviously with postponed games and international call-ups and all that. But I did really want to pick a couple of guys I thought might be interesting to look at for your fantasy team if you do play EFL fantasy. Um, I wanted to point out Andy Cook from Bradford City. He's been on a roll lately in terms of just being a steady presence for the Bradford City. And he's one of their main goal scorers, so that really helps. Yeah, it's Bradford City hasn't been on much of a streak, but when they do score and they play, and they do score, it's usually for him. So I would highly recommend looking at him. He is playing Colchester at Colchester this week. It's a closer game, but I do think he could be an option if you think you need a reliable scorer. Also, Mark Roberts. I'm kind of starting to find out that defenders really are a good way to go in terms of getting a lot of points. Your defenders and your midfielders are going to be huge point getters usually. So I captained Mark Roberts this week. He's on Barnsley. They're playing um, almost bottom league Cambridge, and they're at Cambridge. But I do think this is a easier get if you wanted some good points for a upper level team. And Barnsley taking on lower table Cambridge. It's the NFL, anything can happen, but I do think those would be that would be a good shout probably. Um, the teams are always hard for me. I want to be honest with that because it feels very daunting to pick some of these sometimes. For me, I did go with Doncaster Rovers in Salford. They're at home for that. That feels like a game that should be, you know, that should be close. That should be close, and I kind of feel like they have a good chance to win that one. I also did pick Bradford City as well. So we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, those are kind of some things to keep an eye on. I did pick, um, yeah, I picked Luke Molyneux as well. I kind of been a little stubborn with him at times, but they're playing Salford. Doncaster Rovers are. And he's one of the best defenders in that league. So yeah, um, that's kind of EFL fantasy segment. I do want to look at as well. Let's look at the fixtures in League One real quick. Just because it's kind of interesting to look and see which ones are going on. I just want to give you a quick rundown of the matches that are going to be going on. We're going to have Wrexham Stockport is probably going to be the match of the week, considering they're two teams that are in the playoff places right now. So that should be an interesting match. Cambridge Barnsley, like I mentioned earlier. That's then you have Bristol Rovers versus Crawley. Um, and then Blackpool versus Northampton Town. That should be interesting considering Blackpool. They haven't had a great year either as Northampton Town, but Northampton Town did steal a point at Birmingham City the other week. And then finally have Exeter at Lincoln City. Hope for Lincoln City. Lincoln City, obviously the playoff places. They've been doing pretty good. And Exeter are kind of mid-table, so that should be, like I said, I would definitely say Wrexham, Stockport County should be the fascinating matchup of the week. Just in case you ever thought you wanted to tune in the US, it is on Paramount Plus, I believe. So that's where you can find it there. All right, let's head gridside. Let's preview these NFL games real quick. We start off with a juicy one, actually. Uh, Thursday night football is Commanders at Eagles. That's pretty cool, actually. Not gonna lie. Two NFC East division rivals going at it at the Link. Um, and that's gonna be so fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of stoked for that. Eagles coming into this game off a bit of a hot streak. They are coming off of a win over the Cowboys, a good gobsmack of the Cowboys, 34-6. Um, Commanders coming off their tough loss to the Steelers on Sunday. So yeah, both coming off wins. Well, one's coming off a win, one's coming off a loss. Commanders are looking to rebound and get the division lead back from Philadelphia. Philly does have the division lead after that, because of the better record. And they do have, Washington does have a game to catch up on them whenever Philly takes its bye, which I believe is pretty soon, actually. Yeah, actually, it's 2 weeks from now. So, wait, no? What is there? Yeah, okay. Okay, it is 2 weeks from now, so that'll be when they get their bye. Jay Daniels has been pretty good for the Commanders this year overall. It's been a solid rookie season for him, 2,147 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. Jalen Hurts has really improved since the early season kind of slump. 1,976 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 picks. Jay Daniels is actually the leading rusher for Commanders. That's probably because Brian Robinson's been hurt a lot, as well as Austin Eckler. So that probably helps a lot. He's got 85 carries for 464 yards, 4 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley is the league rusher. The Eagles, he is only away from a 1,000-yard season. 171 carries, 991 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Um, then Terry McLaurin is the lead receiver for the Commanders at 47 catches, 711 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Meanwhile, A.J. Brown, lead receiver for the Eagles at 28 catches, 553 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, this feels like a very even game for the most part. It is at Philly, so that kind of gives them a slight advantage, I think. But it's going to be interesting also to see how the Commanders respond to a loss, because they haven't had to lose in a while. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think it'll be a close divisional game that could get ugly. The Commanders' defense has become better as of late. Last week was kind of a weird game for them. I don't think that's going to be the norm for them. But yeah, I could see this either being a shootout or a very low scoring NFC East division game. And I don't know, it's hard to say who you would say is going to come out on top on this. Philly is favored by 3.5, actually. So that's interesting to look at as well. So yeah, good game there. Start off the slate of games this week. It's going to be a very big slate of games, and I'm kind of excited. We're getting down to the crunch time. Ravens Steelers next up. Ravens coming off the big win on Thursday Night Football against the Bengals. Shootout. Meanwhile, the Steelers coming off a good win against the Commanders, like we just talked about. Lamar Jackson having MVP type numbers this year. He is throwing for 2,669 yards, 24 touchdowns, 2 picks. Russell Wilson is the quarterback for the Steelers this year. Let's look at his stats real quick. He has 737 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a pick. Um, so yeah, he's kind of, Steelers with Russ have actually looked pretty good. For the most part, they haven't lost with it yet, I don't think, at quarterback. So there was that as well. The Steelers are 7-2. Ravens coming into 7-3. So they're hoping to gain a game on their hated rivals. Derrick Henry, we talked about Saquon having nearly an 1,000-yard season. Derrick Henry has 1,120 yards and 12 touchdowns on 184 carries. And George Pickens has actually had a re-emergence season at 40 catches, 639 yards, 2 touchdowns. Zay Flowers has had 50 catches, 688 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, I think this is going to be a good game overall. Very tough, pretty divisional game. Per usual, Ravens Steelers is always a very tightly contested game. That you never know what to expect, but it's usually going to be hard hitting, hard heavy. This is going to be a fun game. I'm really looking forward to it as well. It is at Pittsburgh, but Ravens are actually favored by 3 in this one, so take that how you will. Probably because of how Lamar Jackson's been playing. But I would not be shocked. The Steelers' defense is good. Like they have a good defense. One of the better defenses in the league. Baltimore does not have a defense, and I don't know. Is Kyle Hamilton going to play? That's the question. He is listed as questionable right now, I believe, in the injury report, which is big because you can't lose Kyle Hamilton if you're the Ravens. Yeah, the Ravens have an offense. They don't have much of a pass defense. Their run defense is still, I think, kind of solid, but pass defense is abysmal. And that's what they need to fix. Considering George Pickens is having a re-emergent year as well. And so is Russ, a little bit. So, yeah, this is going to be kind of a fun game. I could see this being a 13, 10, 17, 13 game. Something like that. 17, 16 would be kind of a also Ravens Steelers type score as well. Yeah, it's going to be fun. If you like defensive football, hard hitting, lots of running, this is going to be your game. Jags Lions, not much to say about this one. I think the Jags are coming in this 2-8, losing to the Vikings 12-7. Mac Jones is going to be the quarterback for the Jags, with Trevor Lawrence out. And I think he's out indefinitely at this point. Detroit coming off their close win over the Texans. The comeback that they got. Yeah, this should be an easy win for Detroit. They are favored by 13.5 at home. My goodness. Yeah, this just shows how bad the Jags have been, how good the Lions are this year. Yeah, the Lions have just blown everyone out of their way until the Texans. Texans were kind of a scare for them. And I want to see how they react coming out of that one. If the Jags kind of build a similar defense to what Houston did, that would be interesting. You watch this be the fun game like the Lions blow out. They lose somehow, but yeah, this should be a comfortable Lions win. They have a better defense. They have better talent all across the board, really. I mean, honestly, like the Jags don't have bad talent. It's not like they are a bad team. They have pieces. It's just those pieces just have not gelled for some reason. It's kind of sad because this is a fan base that really, really thought with Trevor Lawrence they were going to get a lot of hope this year, and it just hasn't happened. The last couple of years, it hasn't. Ever since they lost to the Chiefs in the divisional round, they just haven't had that spark again after absolutely collapsing and losing the division to the Texans, I think it was last year. Um, yeah, it's just been bad. And you feel bad for the Jags, but also like, it's the Lions. They're gonna, you would think they would steamroll them. So, the Rams Patriots. Rams coming off a weird loss to the Dolphins last week on Monday Night Football. Patriots coming off an interesting win over the Bears. Wasn't like the most impressive win, but still, it was a win. It was a great win. You get the Patriots their third win of the year. Um, yeah, this is gonna be interesting. The Rams have the better offense, in my opinion. Stafford comes to this game, 2,262 yards, 9 touchdowns, 7 picks. Drake May comes to this, 954 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. Howard Williams, 776 carries, 664 yards, and 8 touchdowns, while Ramondre Stevenson, with 134 carries, has 512 yards and 6 tutties. Cooper Kupp has 41 catches, 362 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Hunter Henry is still the lead receiver for the Patriots. The Rams are favored by 5. I can see why, even though it's in Foxborough. The Rams just have a pretty good offense that didn't show last week in Miami, but still at the same time, like, you know, it is the Patriots, like, they are one of the greatest teams in the world, but, somehow I could see this being close. I really could, because that loss in Miami really puts a lot of doubts in your head. The Rams need to prove they aren't that team if they really want to be serious playoff contenders this year. They are 4-5 on the year. Um, yeah, it's kind of ugly for them, to be honest. And yeah, this is going to be a better stone to see their resilience. I mean, like, they round off the 4 straight wins to get to 500, and now they are back in the hole again. And if they could pull it out, good for them. They'll need to, prove it more later because, um, the Patriots aren't exactly world beaters. But still, I can see this being closer than anticipated. Um, they are favored by 5. The Rams are favored by 5.5 or 5, depending on where you look. Um, and yeah, I could see this being closer. I can see this being within 3. Patriots usually tend to make things close unless you're a really superior team. And like the Rams are, you would think on paper they're looking a lot better, and they should win. The Rams should win this game. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout, but they should win this game. Um, Patriots just do not have an O-line. And Drake May just seems so lost back there. You feel bad for him because, like, despite that, he's played pretty well overall. Um, and actually, giving Patriots a lot to look at, the next offseason. So yeah, you feel good for him, the Patriots fans, so they actually have a quarterback. But, they might actually have a quarterback, but you never know. Yeah, but I do expect the Rams to win this one. Browns Saints is the next one. This is at New Orleans. Um, Jameis, I think, is still going to be starting. Derek Carr's going to be the starting quarterback for the Saints. Saints coming off a win over the Falcons in New Orleans. The Browns coming off of a loss to the Chargers a couple weeks ago. Browns did have their bye this last week, so they're hoping to use that, come out the bye fresh and try to get a win. But I do think the Saints will win this. The Saints just have a better offense. So, to be fair, the Browns defense is pretty good. They have one of the better D lines in the country. in the league. Um, yeah, this should be a close game. I would think. I can see it being close, And also, I just thought of this. Jameis Winston. This is going to be a revenge game for him. Coming against his old team that he used to play for. I believe he started a few games for them, the Saints, and now he's playing for the Browns. And yeah, that's actually kind of an interesting storyline to take out of it. See how he plays against the Saints. Alvin Kamara is the league rusher for the Saints. Um, yeah, he's looking to get going again. Jerome Ford's looking to get going for the Browns. I don't know. I could see the Saints winning this. Like, the Browns have a good defense, but at the same time, I don't know. Do you trust Jameis, I guess, in a spot? I guess the Saints defense, that could be hit or miss. That's the question. And, yeah, I mean, they beat the Falcons last week, the Saints did, but, like, this is going to be interesting to see if they can build on that win. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, it's going to be kind of an interesting game. I would say it's close. The Saints should win. I think being at home, they are favored by 1 in this game, by 1 point. That's kind of interesting, even being at home. I think a lot of that has to probably do with their record. But yeah, we'll have to see. It should be an interesting game. Not much in terms of the playoff race, but definitely in terms of draft positioning. Colts Jets actually is kind of prominent in the playoff discussions. Um, Jets, came into last week looking to, keep their season alive against the Cardinals, and that did not happen. They got blown out there and went to 6, and looked bad in the process. And went to 3-7, and I think that's pretty much over for the Jets. Colts, meanwhile, they are actually breaking news. The Colts are going back to Anthony Richardson this week. After 2 starts with Flacco, they said enough is enough, and Anthony Richardson is starting again. So that, they're trying to salvage their playoff hopes. I get that, but like, it feels desperate now at this point, trying to find anything to keep themselves alive. And yeah, they're tied actually with the Bengals right now. Still, the Colts are. Yeah, they're tied, and I think they have the better overall. They have the better seeding because of conference record. Yeah, so yeah, I mean this should be a huge game. This is a huge game for the Colts and Jets at this point. Aaron Rodgers has come out and said that he thinks they can play for pride. I mean, maybe, I guess. That just sounds very disheartening, honestly, if I'm a Jets fan. But the Colts have everything to play for. They want to keep pace with the Broncos, try to stay a game back of them. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I could see the Colts winning this. I could. Jets are actually favored by 4 in this one. I mean, it kind of feels right considering how the Colts have played the last couple of weeks. Colts are coming off that 30-20 loss in Buffalo. No, at home to Buffalo. They hosted Buffalo. But yeah, this is, you don't know how to think about these 2 teams, honestly. These are 2 teams that are very consistent. They don't really have an identity. It feels like the Colts are the most unidentifiable team because they don't have a great offense or a great defense. It's just, they're kind of meh at both. And that's kind of where it feels like with them. I, I kind of feel like the Colts should win this, but at the same time, like, I could easily see the Jets pull this out. The Jets, they have a better defense, I would say. They do have. On paper, that Jets offense should do something. And yeah, I guess the Cardinals, they were absolutely awful. So you never quite know. I mean, look at the numbers on paper. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had an awful year. 2,258 yards, 15 touchdowns, 7 picks. Brees Hall, the rusher for the Jets. Um, it's weird also that Joe Flacco is the lead passer for the Colts. He's only made 4 starts, considering 4 or 5 starts actually, probably. So, half the season there. But still, it just feels weird to see Joe Flacco as the passing leader for the Indianapolis Colts in the year of our Lord 2024. Um, yeah, I could just see this being a kind of an ugly game. Both teams are really desperate, especially the Colts, to try to find a way to win. I could see the Colts winning this, but at the same time, I could also see Anthony Richardson tapping out, throwing a pick after a pick six to the Jets, and the Colts losing by 3. So anything is possible in this game, any given Sunday. And that's why you look for it, honestly. These are the kinds of games that can be intriguing because it's part of the playoff chase. And that's kind of why you tune in this late in the season, because there's a lot of teams like that. Like the Colts, who are just right below the playoff spots and really trying to hang on to any chance they've got. But yeah, that, that kind of should be an interesting one. Vikings coming off a 12-7 win over the Jags are facing the Titans, who came off of, I believe it was a loss. Yeah, it was a loss to the Chargers, 27-17. Vikings should win this. Um, we said that about the Jags last week, though. They kind of a stinker. Sam Darnold didn't have his best game ever. He's kind of declined in his numbers. Even though the Vikings defense is still legit. Will Levis is going to be starting with the Titans, I believe. Um, Will Levis has 874 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 7 picks. Sam Darnold has 2,141 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 10 picks. Aaron Jones has carried the ball 142 times for 653 yards and 2 touchdowns. And of course, no surprise, Vikings lead receiver Justin Jefferson, 53 receptions, 831 yards and 5 touchdowns. Calvin Ridley is the lead receiver for the Titans at 32 catches, 483 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Tony Pollard leads the rushing attack for the Titans, 151 carries, 666 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Um, Titans love to run the ball. Only thing is they're going up against one of the better defenses in the league. And yeah, the Vikings don't allow a lot of running room. Except for the Lions, who just apparently can gash them at any moment. But, yeah. The Vikings are favored by 6. I think that kind of says a lot about this game. It is in Nashville, but at the same time, like, it feels like the Titans have kind of given up at this point, and they're trying to just experiment with whatever works. And looking ahead to next season, and that's kind of sad because like Mason Rudolph was giving them some good performances on offense, not great but solid. Um, yeah, this just feels like a Vikings win, you know, or they could pull out another ugly win like they did against Jacksonville last week. You never quite know. That's kind of the beauty about Sunday football, to be sure. Um, Raiders Dolphins is a matchup as well. Um, Dolphins are 3-6 after a win over the Rams last Monday night. Vegas is hurting once again. I believe, yeah, they had a bye last week, so they're hoping to use that to kind of reset. Gardner Minshew is going to start, I think, this week and probably the foreseeable future for the Raiders. This is in Miami, so that's kind of something. I do think the Dolphins will win. I think last week was a kind of a reminder of why the Dolphins' offense can be good. Tua has 1,155 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. So Gardner Minshew's 1,501 yards, 6 touchdowns, 8 picks. Of course, a lot of Tua's numbers are kind of sideways because of his injury and being on IR for so long. But Alexander Bass is the lead rusher for the Raiders at 92 carries, 301 yards, 3 touchdowns. Devon Achane, lead rusher for the Dolphins at 105 carries, 457 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brock Bowers, the lead receiver for the Raiders, 57 catches, 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Tyreek Hill, who has not quite looked himself this year, has 37 catches for 462 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, this is 2 teams that their season is practically over. Losers probably eliminated almost from the playoffs. Not mathematically, probably, but very close. And their season's on life support. at that point. But the winner, could kind of, especially if you're the Dolphins, who should win, and they are favored by 7 in this game. It feels like a lot considering, how the Dolphins have played even in a win against the Rams. They weren't exactly great either, but, um, they should take advantage of the Raiders defense who has some injuries and just is not that great lately. The Raiders offense is inconsistent and I feel like the Dolphins should be able to take advantage of that. So I do see a Dolphins win, and that that could keep their season alive for another day. I don't know what the playoff standings look like for them. Actually, they're in the 10th spot, so like a win would keep them somewhat in it, like a game back. So like they're not completely out of it yet, but I don't trust them really to do much, if that makes any sense. So Packers Bears, this is an interesting one. It looked like it might be a very good one until the last couple of weeks for the Bears, who are just starting to spiral. They fired Shane Waldron as their offensive coordinator. Um, you kind of expected it. Eberflus is getting a lot of calls to be fired by the fans of the Bears, but their head coach. But I don't think that's going to happen at least until the end of the year, probably. Um, Packers are just a better team, in my opinion. They are coming off a bye after getting smacked around by the Lions a couple weeks ago. They are favored by 5. That feels about right considering, the defense the Packers have overall, who has been very opportunistic most of this year. Jordan Love is the lead passer for the Packers, obviously, 1,820 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 picks. Caleb Williams has 1,785 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. Josh Jacobs has 158 carries, 162 yards, 3 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift for the Bears has 141 carries, 164 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And Jade Reed is the lead receiver for the Packers at 36 catches, 620 yards, and 3 touchdowns, while Roma Dunze is the lead receiver for the Bears at 28 catches, 414 yards, and a touchdown. Um, like I said, the Packers have a really good defense. That is opportunistic, and I think will take advantage of the Bears' offense. Now, obviously, they could get a lift from the new coordinator, whoever that is. I forget who it is at this present moment. I think it's Thomas Davis or something like that. But yeah, huge game for the Packers to try to rebound from as well. Um, Bears were trying to just look to keep themselves alive in the playoff hunt another week. And yeah, it's going to be a good old fashioned NFC North Division battle, I think. Could be close, could be a blowout favor the Packers. I could easily see that. If the Bears somehow win this, though, do we need to consider like how good the Packers are? Um, I don't know. I kind of do have faith in them still. It just feels like they ran into a really good Detroit team last time they played. And this will be a good measuring stick to see, where they've come since then. And hopefully it's up for them. Bears, meanwhile, they just want to find some kind of stability at this point and not let their season be over early. Falcons Broncos is another game that's happening this week. Broncos coming off the dramatic loss to the Chiefs off the blocked field goal. Meanwhile, the Falcons coming off a surprise loss to the Saints. This is going to be a game that's actually in Denver. Um, looking at this, these two teams are kind of even for the most part. Kirk has 2,634 yards, 17 touchdowns, 8 picks. Bo Nix has 1,968 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. Bijan Robinson, 155 carries, 148 yards, and 6 touchdowns. J- Williams, I believe. Javante Williams, I should say. 103 carries, 368 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Um, yeah, for the most part, this feels like two teams that like to run the ball, want to run the ball, and Denver has just a really good defense. Falcons have kind of been a little bit exposed lately. And I wonder if the Broncos are going to kind of take all their vengeance and their fury out on the Falcons. Um, the Broncos are actually favored by 2.5 in this one. I could see it. They're really trying to um, keep the playoff hopes alive. They are the 6th seed, the 7th seed at the present moment. Actually, one game ahead of the Colts and Bengals. And maybe the Jets after this week. Who knows? But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Two teams that really want to stay in their playoff hunts. And neither team really can lose this one or afford to lose it because of how tight the seeding is behind them. So, um, yeah, let's look at actually the Falcons, where they are on that. They are right now the 3rd seed against the division lead that they have for the Bucks, who are 2 games back of the Falcons, currently plus, well, 2.5 technically. You include the tiebreaker with head-to-head losses to the Falcons. Yeah, this should be an interesting game. I do think the Broncos could pull this off. They just have the better defense, in my opinion, against an offense that is very up and down, and you never know what you're going to expect from the Falcons' offense, to be honest. So, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Denver won it at all. Seahawks 49ers is also an interesting game because, like, the Seahawks are coming off of a loss to the Rams, and I think they went on bye last week. Um, yeah, they did. Um, so yeah, they're hoping to rebound and maybe ruin a few parties in San Francisco after what was a good performance by Brock Purdy last week, beating the Bucks in a close one that probably shouldn't have been close, but it was. They won by 3 off of a Jake Moody field goal. Um, Also, the 49ers got a new punter this week, so that should be interesting. It's not, I don't think it's Wisnowski anymore. It's someone else, and that could be interesting. I don't know what that's going to mean exactly, but just a bit of news that I found interesting as well. Um, Christian McCaffrey's back. His first game back for the year, and now he's going to hopefully, for them, vamp up to the offensive player of the year that he is. Now the question is, if they lose this game, is that too little, too late? Um, Seahawks try to go back to 500. They would take 2nd place, I believe, in the division. With a win. No, actually, they could be 3rd because of the Rams. Anyways, um, yeah, this is a good old fashioned, Niners Seahawks game that, should go down to the wire. I think my concern again, as I've said before, Seahawks do not have an offensive or defensive line, and I feel like that's kind of what the Niners are going to attack. Um, attack them with Christian McCaffrey and some, and a good dose of their running game with Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason. This should be. I think it could be a fun afternoon game. I just could also see the Niners just blowing this one out of the water. They are favored by 6.5, and that kind of shows you how much respect they're giving the Niners at home against the Seahawks team that just came off a loss to the Rams, and it's starting to kind of spiral a little bit since their 3-0 start. I believe they're 1-5 since the last time they played the Niners. It was competitive for a little bit, but the Niners just eventually just pulled away. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think they get Jawan Jennings back too this week, so that's really going to help their receiving core as well for the Niners. Yeah, the Niners want to keep on pushing Arizona. Make sure they, that they are not far behind the Cardinals when it comes time for that game to come up again. So yeah, huge game on both sides. Seahawks want to stay in the playoff picture, so the Niners obviously, and a loss really could cost either team. So huge stakes as always. Chiefs Bills is like the game of the week, in my opinion. Man, so much to unpack here. It's a rematch of so many playoff games, and recently a lot of regular season games as well. The Bills coming off their 30-20 win at Indy, the Chiefs coming off the late dramatic win over the Broncos, 16-14. So yeah, Chiefs looking to go get another win. They are 9-0, the only undefeated team in the league so far. Chiefs have not had a team in a single regular season, win more than 9 games in a row. So this is usually where that trend ends for them. And week 10 against a decent opponent. Huge for the Bills. Kevin Coleman is going to be out for this game. Um, they did designate Matt Milano to return from IR, but he will not play in this game as well. Um, Spencer Brown is questionable, as is Amari Cooper and Dalton Kincaid. So that's going to be interesting to see for the Bills. Juju Smith-Schuster came back to practice for the Chiefs. It looks like he has a very good chance to play this week. Meanwhile, Charles Omenihu and Isaiah Pacheco were both designated to return from IR. They have 21 days to practice. 3-week practice window before having to play officially. Yeah, it did sound like those two are going to play this week, but that they'll be back in the next week or two, probably, and in limited capacities, I would suppose, before getting ready for the full game speed. But yeah, this should be a good matchup. Both quarterbacks are actually kind of similar if you look at their stats. Uh, Mahomes has 2,208 yards passing to Josh Allen's 2,281 yards passing. 12 touchdowns and 9 picks for Mahomes. 17 touchdowns to 4 picks for Allen. And really, it feels like both teams want to make a statement in this game. The Chiefs kind of looked bland in the Broncos game, and I think that was on purpose to kind of just hide some things for the Bills and prepare for this game. Kareem Hunt has been carrying the ball well for the Chiefs. 125 carries for 449 yards and 5 touchdowns. Meanwhile, James Cook has had 128 carries, 576 yards and 8 touchdowns. So yeah, it's very similar stat lines on a lot of levels. 60 catches for 499 yards and 2 touchdowns for Kelsey. Travis Kelsey, meanwhile, Khalil Shakir has 48 catches for 529 yards and 2 touchdowns. So really, a lot of the stats actually kind of are very similar for both teams. It feels like a very evenly matched game. Bills defense has not been very existent lately, so I would think the Chiefs are going to try and take advantage of that. And also the Chiefs defense is going to look to take advantage of Josh Allen kind of starting to get a little bit more turnover happy lately. He's thrown 4 picks in the last 2 games, I believe. 2 or 3 games. And yeah, this is kind of a trend that Josh Allen doesn't want to go back on. Usually when he starts going on this trend, he kind of starts going downhill fast. But you never know. Yeah. Chiefs actually, they get a lot of talk about Mahomes interceptions. Like, they actually haven't had as many turnover-worthy plays as the Bills had, which is kind of interesting. That was kind of a random stat I saw on Twitter by ESPN Stats and Info, I believe it was. Could be wrong though. But yeah, should be a good game. It is in the CBS Jim Nantz Tony Romo slot, which means that it's going to be a good game. Just don't always know that it's good commentating, but should be a good one that will really whet the appetite of NFL fans everywhere. And I mean, this is huge. Like the Chiefs win, they are go to 10-0. Send the Bills to 8-3, and with that, they would be 3 games back of the number 1 seed. And depending on how the results go, this could be a 3-game cushion for the Chiefs if they win. The Bills, if they win, obviously would gain ground on the 1 seed. I believe we 1 game back with the tiebreaker. So I think both teams know the importance of this game in terms of playoff seeding. Obviously, the Bills want to get back to hosting the games. Having the playoff bye is so important for a lot of teams. So, yeah, huge consequences in terms of AFC playoff seed and who gets the first round bye there in the AFC. So it should be a fun game. Two, I think, pretty evenly matched teams actually going at it, and very excited for that one. Sunday Night Football is also kind of a huge game in terms of playoffs. It's the 4-6 Bengals taking on the 6-3 Chargers. The Chargers coming to this game beating up on the Titans 27-17, and wasn't nearly really as close as the score indicates after the second quarter. Bengals, meanwhile, coming off a loss to the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. They come to this game without Orlando Brown, I believe. I believe he's going to be out for this game. This is going to be a huge, huge game. Bengals want to win this, obviously, to keep within striking distance of the Broncos. Meanwhile, the Chargers are just trying to keep plugging away, keep holding on to the playoff spot they have. I believe right now the Chargers are they are the 6th seed, actually. I thought they were the 5th. They're the 6th seed, and a couple of games up on the Broncos. So they have a little bit of room to wiggle, but they want to keep that room, obviously, because, you start slipping, you might be able to just slip right out of the playoffs. But and this is a Bengals team that's desperate. Joe Burrow putting up MVP type numbers with his 2,672 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 4 picks. Justin Herbert hasn't been that bad either, honestly, this year, with 1,889 yards, 11 touchdowns, and a pick. So it's not been awful, but at the same time, it's not been the best either. Yeah, it feels like, to be honestly, these are two kind of evenly matched teams. Not by much. The Bengals, I think, do have the better offensive weapons, but the Chargers have the better defensive weapons. And the thing that concerns me about this is the Chargers have the best scoring defense in the league, which is kind of random for a 6C team. But the Bengals going up against that with a defense of their own that is not very good. And yeah, that's going to kind of be interesting to see if the Chargers can take advantage of that. They have the running game to do it. And I think the Bengals might be able to match that because lately they've been able to contain Derrick Henry and stuff. But can they stop Quentin Johnson, who had a breakout game last week? Can they stop him from scoring? Obviously, it's a question if the Chargers can slow down the Bengals offense, as Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were just both lighting up scoreboards last week. Jamar Chase had a historic game for himself last week against the Ravens. I believe it was here we go. Against the Ravens, he had 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, with a log of 70. And that's insane. Dude is awesome. One of the best receivers in the league by far. Yeah. And he's going up against the number one defense in the league. Number one scoring defense, I should say. Not number one overall, it's just top scoring defense. They don't allow a ton of points. That's going to be really tested. Because this Bengals team is going to be desperate. They want to keep up with the Broncos and make sure they're within that striking distance. If they don't win this game, the Bengals, I think, are kind of doomed. They are playing the Steelers. They need to win. They have the Chargers and then the Steelers next week. So if they don't win both of these games, I do think the season is over for the Bengals officially. They really need to just, yeah. They have these 2 games and then kind of an easy schedule with the Cowboys, Titans, and Browns, where they play the Broncos and the Steelers. But yeah, if they lose one or both of these games coming up, I think that really spells season over for them because they won't have the tiebreakers really to get in. Even if they did claw their way into a playoff area spot, they would need to have tiebreakers, and they would have those. So they need the conference record stuff too. So yeah, that would be huge for the Bengals if they could win this. And if the Chargers lose this, it's kind of interesting because yes, they would have as much wiggle room if the Broncos won, but like still, it's kind of interesting to think about. Like this is the first year with Harbaugh. The Chargers have actually done pretty well with him their first year, so this is kind of his big test to show, hey, we're playoff contenders. Chargers are favored by 1.5 in this game, in case you were wondering what the swing is, and they are at home, so that kind of helps as well. So we'll have to see. That should be a very tricky game in terms of playoff spots. Texans Cowboys. I don't want to elaborate on so much, because this feels like being a dead horse at this point. Everyone's beating up the Cowboys at this point because of how bad they look. They got spanked on TV, on national TV against the Eagles, and Dak is out now with an injury. He got surgery on his hamstring to repair his hamstring, so he's out for the rest of the year, which sucks for him. He's you know he not always has had deserved the criticism he's received, even if he's been kind of a not great quarterback. He's been mid, but he's been good enough in a lot of years to really help carry that team. And it feels unfortunate for him, but this also kind of feels like the end or near the end for Mike McCarthy. Um, yeah, this this feels sad, honestly. Texans coming off a loss to the Lions, a game they should have won when they picked Jared Goff off 5 times, but they didn't. I think Nico Collins is probably going to come back for this game. I don't think this is going to be particularly close. Texans are favored by 7.5, which shows kind of, I think, the mood is also in the favor of the Texans winning pretty big as well. CJ Stroud, even though he has his best year, he's still solid enough, and he's got weapons coming back that will help. CeeDee Lamb, I think, is still healthy, but I don't know how much he's going to be able to carry for Rush, as who's the quarterback now. It just feels hopeless for the Cowboys, to be honest. And I don't know if it's Mike McCarthy. It just feels like there's a lot of things wrong with the Cowboys. They don't have a great defense this year. The defense has kind of been a hallmark for the Cowboys the last couple of years. It has not been that good this year, even with Micah Parsons coming back. So, yeah, this should be a win for the Texans on Monday Night Football. If it's not, I really think we need to start asking some questions about this Texans team and how legit they actually are. So, yeah, they really need to prove it this week, after a loss to the Lions, I should say. Yeah, a good measuring stick game to make sure it's a trap game. It could be a trap game for the Texans, considering they have, um, well, trap game is kind of big because they have the Titans, Jags, and Dolphins next before they play the Chiefs. But this should be. It felt like one of the bigger games coming into the year. Now it's really not, and you kind of feel bad. So yeah, it will probably be one of the stinkers Monday Night Football this year, which has actually been pretty good overall this year. So uh, yeah, that's been your Gridside preview for the Week 11 action. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Really hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like and a follow on Spotify. We're also on Amazon Music and Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube, so please give us a follow, a subscribe there, and give us a like and a comment. You can also comment on Spotify. Any comments or with suggestions or recommendations, we greatly appreciate it. We want to hear from you. Want to make the show like a fun thing for you to enjoy. Um, yeah, and we want to make sure that it's enjoyable, and we want to hear from you as well if you are a listener to this show. Um, yeah. So until next time, hope you enjoy all the action that's coming up this weekend. Lots of good playoff football coming up, and the season's getting close. The postseason's getting closer. Margins are getting smaller, and that's kind of what we enjoy as football fans, isn't it? And if you're an EFL fan, hope you enjoy whatever international action, or if you're into the lower league action as well, or hope you enjoy all that. Enjoy your weekend. Have some fun. Hope to see you next time.